Raise your hand if you ever attempted to supervise a colleague. Was it easy? Was it fun? Or did it feel like you were trying to guide a sleepwalking cat through a laser-filled room? Supervising is a universal challenge. Directing other humans sometimes feels like a penguin teaching a giraffe how to waddle. It all results in a confusion where someone is bound to trip. Now, introduce AI into this dance. It also needs to be supervised. But how? It is like asking someone who barely mastered basic math to perform calculus problems. How can we possibly direct our digital counterparts when we struggle with human-to-human supervision? AI is undeniably seductive. It promises ease, convenience, and power. You tell it what to do, and it does it. Have you played with ChatGPT? Exciting, empowering, fun, until you see errors, misinformation, and easy to spot AI-generated answers. AI can lead us down to unexpected paths, including unintended consequences. When ChatGPT first hit the scene, I was like a kid in a candy store. There, technology that actually gets me. But then it was a little too good. It's like having a friend that always agrees with you. Fun, right? I mean, not really. It's like, go ahead, use a fork with sushi. That's the traditional way. Or ketchup and spaghetti? Yeah, that's completely Italian. And yes, pineapple belongs on pizza. Okay, maybe not that one. So I recently used AI to plan my big trip to Iceland. The results? Well, let's just say I have many learnings, and I will be sharing them with you today. It started simple. I asked for a recommendation to pack. It told me to bring sandals to a snowstorm. Hilarious? Absolutely. Practical? Not so much. Here's the punchline. AI is an incredibly powerful tool, and it thrives with supervision. We must approach AI with both rigor and heart. And practically what that means is that you have to have a manual and a checklist. Let me talk about the manual that describes different stages of supervision. There are 4 of them, and they are oversight, improvement, harmonization, and empowerment. I will go through all 4 of them using my example of traveling to Iceland to illustrate each stage. So I asked AI to recommend a place to stay. It recommended an ice hotel. That sounds very adventuresome, but for the fact that I don't like being cold. If you ask my husband, he will tell you that I love subtropical climates. 72 Fahrenheit is my definition of room temperature. That is when he opens every window in my house. That is when the oversight comes in. Instead of blindly following AI, we must question its rationale. Am I looking for experience that challenges my comfort zone? Am I looking for something that is comfortable and cozy? The oversight stage of the manual is the opportunity to align us with the AI system. Next stage, improvement. AI suggested that I look for local experiences. And it recommended that I check out the Icelandic knitting circle. I have to admit, I'm not a knitter. But I did go, and surprisingly found the experience interesting and fun. AI was able to make suggestions after learning a little bit about me that completely aligned with who I am and what I value. And in that, the improvement stage shows that it's actually able to learn and adapt and grow with us. So, as we continued interacting, AI did pick up that I like it warm. Remember? I do like it warm. So it recommended the geothermal pools. And as I was soaking there in very warm, more like really, really hot water, I realized that this was a perfect harmonization illustration. AI was able to bridge the gap between the system and myself, the user. Many more conversations and interactions later, AI finally hit the mark. I shared my love for art, beauty, and colors, and it suggested that I go see the Northern Lights. That, for me, was a perfect combination of adventure and awe. I really enjoyed it. It was remarkable. But continually feeding information to AI systems with diverse data and feedback, we empower them to synthesize disparate pieces of information in order to serve us better. Following the stages in the manual results in a symbiotic relationship where both human, myself, and the system grow. And in the process, human stays in control. In sum, as we integrate AI more deeply into our lives, it reminds us that AI is a powerful tool, and its true potential is only realized when we systematically provide it with structure and feedback. Now, we just talked about the stages, but what do we actually do when we encounter the system? Let's talk about the checklist. There are 4 steps: immerse, introspect, evaluate, and execute. Again, I will talk about all 4 of them one at a time using my adventures in Iceland to illustrate. So remember how it started. I asked AI to give me recommendations to pack, to stay, and what to do. I didn't take my time to explore the system, to understand how it works. I literally dove head first. It would have helped if I actually played with it a little and understood its limitations. That is immersion. That is the first step with any system, especially AI. You need to understand how it works, what it can do for you, and what are its biases. If I had done that, I would have been able to predict the very interesting suggestions that I received. Introspect is your second step. We must allow space and time to reflect back on what happened. What was right? What was wrong? How could it be better? And as I thought about my experiences, I realized that the AI system didn't really know me. It didn't really understand me as human, and I need to train it. I need to share things about me. I need to provide some data. And I discovered that training AI system is basically kind of like training a dog. With consistent guidance, patience, it learned and aligned with my travel style and my personality. Evaluate is your step 3. In introspect, I was able to identify the lack of training. But as I thought deeper about my experiences, I realized that the system needs more than just one training. It needs to have a continuous conversation. I need to refine it. I need to set up a feedback loop. So I started praising the system for doing things well and correcting it for doing it not so well. And in the end, I essentially retrained the system multiple times. Finally, execute. In the end, AI evolved in a trusty assistant. It made a few very good recommendations and some amazing ones. Remember the geothermal pool and the Northern Lights? Those were highlights of my trip. Execute is your final step. It is a culmination of all the steps after you've trained the system and can allow it to operate much more autonomously, yet still with supervision. In sum, we cannot let AI drive blindly. We must remain in control and intentionally drive toward good results. The checklist helps us take specific steps and make our journey exciting and transformative. AI is like that eager-to-please puppy. You feed it junk, it will make a mess. But you give it good stuff, and it will fetch your slippers. Think of it like planning a trip to see the Northern Lights. You wouldn't just wing it. You would bring some warm clothes, hot cocoa, and definitely a camera. But you will do more than that. You will also go to a special place away from the city and at a time of the day where you're more likely to see it. Similarly with the AI, we must be prepared, thoughtful, and intentional. Because who knows, with the right supervision, following the stages in the manual and steps in a checklist, AI may light up our lives, just like the Northern Lights. In fact, it may become a highlight of our experiences. Raise your hand if you bring a checklist to a grocery store. I do. Why? Because without it, I'll come back home with 5 bags of chips and forget the milk. If pilots and doctors who literally have our lives in their hands rely on manuals and checklists, shouldn't we when we supervise AI? After all, we entrusted with a lot of data, decisions, and even data recommendations. Let's make sure AI doesn't go wild in a digital store. Let's make sure it doesn't fill our cards with digital junk. Use the manual and a checklist to supervise AI to do better so it can benefit us all. Remember how it all started with a recommendation to bring sandals to a snowstorm. Hilarious? Yes. Practical? Not so much. And yes, it was actually kind of frustrating. Our lives with AI will be filled with many, many sandals in a snowstorm moments. But with the manual and a checklist, we can navigate this digital landscape and put it back on track to serve us better. Remember, while AI can crunch numbers much faster than I can say Icelandic knitting circle, that one is really hard for me because English is my second language. But it still cannot appreciate the joy of a hand-knit sweater and a perfectly timed joke. As we explore AI-driven world, let's make sure we pack our hearts, the understanding of the supervision framework, and yes, bring those boots. Why? Because boots look good on everyone. And absolutely, bring your sense of humor. Cheers to putting not just chuckles, but heart into AI. Thank you so much.